What is going on, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to United versus everybody. I am your host, Sean, and we are back with a real quick Man United News Roundup. Sorry for the earlier streams these last few days. It's just been a busy second half of the week, and it's just very difficult to find a whole lot of time to do all these things. So this is when I'm able to do it. Hopefully it's not too early for you guys, but I'm glad that you guys are here. Hit that like button for me, subscribe to the channel. We're going to talk a little bit about all these different things going on right now. We've got some financial news to talk about, got some transfer news to talk about. It is our last roundup before the last trip to Goodison Park as well. So come back tomorrow for the match preview as we prepare to take on Everton and reunited with Moisey. So we're going to talk a little bit about all that today. So let's get stuck in, you guys. A lot of fun financial stuff. So first and foremost, before we dive into the nitty gritty, it's not United related per se, but kind of United related because two former Man United, I guess you could call staff members, personalities, however you want to call it, they could be set to link up soon in the Eredivisie. Now, Feyenoord are on the verge of reportedly appointing former Man United striker Robin van Persie as their new head coach. That's coming from David Ornstein, so you can kind of just take that to the banks. But it's interesting because not only that, Feyenoord are also, looks like they're negotiating with former United assistant coach Rene Haka to be Robin van Persie's assistant coach at Feyenoord. So very interesting. Talks are ongoing right now with Feyenoord are trying to plan out their whole coaching setup moving forward. It sounds like a bit of a rebuild there. Seems a bit too soon, in my opinion, for Robin van Persie to take that job. It's a big job. Obviously, he's a Feyenoord legend. Went back to Feyenoord after he left United as well for a spell. In my opinion, though, it seems a bit too soon. But you guys let me know. They are still in the Champions League right now, Feyenoord, after eliminating AC Milan this week. So he'll be diving right into Champions League football again, which is why I'm like, man, that's a big step up from where I think he was at Groningen or something in the Eredivisie. I feel like he was at recently. Maybe it was Grasshoppers. Of course, he could crush it. They could go on to win the whole thing. Who knows? But I thought it was a little bit interesting news there. So let me know your thoughts on RVP getting a coaching job. It's a big job. So see how it goes. Moving on to some fun stuff. So I don't know if you saw, and you'll be forgiven for maybe if you saw and you're like, I don't know what any of this shit means as far as United's financial reports came out yesterday, because I don't really know what it all means. I can see the numbers and stuff, but I'm not a financial expert, so I go and then look it up to see what other people are saying. But United's financial reports were released last week for the quarter two for this year, their accounts, so the fiscal year as well. And it's a little interesting. So the first thing that we saw coming out yesterday was this. So this is the cumulative interest that United have accrued. And as you can see, it's since the Glazers have taken over basically on like 2005, 2006. And you can see just how much interest. Now, this isn't even the debt. This is the interest on the debt that we've paid so far, which is just staggering. Good morning, Darkrow. How are you, my friend? Good to see you. Yeah, this is literally just the interest that we paid so far on the debt that the Glazers have accrued right now, literally exceeding 1 billion. It's an absolute ridiculous. The debt right now is up to 700 plus million, and we still owe over 300 million in transfer fees. Now, this is what happens when you amortize. There's leftover fees. You get paid a little bit up front, but then the unpaid stuff is the stuff that we have, and that's at 300 million. So again, this is getting out of hand right now. Box, good morning, my friend. You came in at a good video because right now we're looking at the interest that we paid so far since the Glazers have taken over. So again, over 1 billion paid just in interest, over 700 million right now in debt, 300 million still owed in transfer fees right now. And then add to that, the cost of sacking Dan Ashworth, which exceeded £4 million. 10.5 million to sack Eric Ten Hag. It's getting out of hand. The good box says this graph looks very depressing. Yes, it is depressing. But this is just another example of why we are where we are right now. This is all the Glazers. So people can get mad that Sir Jim just isn't rich enough to pay this off, but it's just that just is what it is. Who in their right mind, like I said, the analogy, imagine that you got married, and how excited would you be if you got married to pay off your spouse's like student loan debt? Like you wouldn't be too excited. You'd probably have questions, right? And so Lionheart says, yes, I've been looking forward to you to do this video. Yeah, I'm not going to go too in depth, Lionheart, simply because I'm not a financial expert, but the graphs do help break it down real quick. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. If you guys want to go ahead and watch that video. And that was basically me kind of recapping and summarizing what Kieran Maguire had to say. Kieran Maguire is a financial expert, so he sat down with Flex at United View yesterday and talked a little bit about it. So I did kind of recap that video and give my thoughts. Today, though, we're looking at some of what the financial reporting was that as United released their quarterly results yesterday. And this, again, is just a reminder of how much interest we pay. Good morning, Teresa. How are you? Good to see you again, as always. So 1 billion in interest paid, over 700 million still to owe in debt, 300 million to owe in transfer fees. Again, 4 million to sack Dan Ashworth, 10.5 million to sack Ten Hag and his staff. Revenue is down 12% right now because we don't have Champions League football as well. And then there's another almost 19 million in interest payments for the 6 months. So again, we're still making these interest payments. It's getting a little out of hand. Box says, seems like it's all snowballing at this point, and Ineos Amorim have the biggest pile of shit to wade through. They do, man. They have to like get on get on the galoshes, get on the waders, start figuring out, because our revenue, despite some of this, we are actually fine with revenue. So if you look at our revenue right now, this is a total revenue over the last several years as well. Let me get this off the screen here. So you can see the revenue has actually been increasing. Now you can see a couple dips there in 2020, 2021 due to COVID, because we weren't allowed to have anybody in the stands. And match day revenue is a huge, huge, huge draw. This is why the walkouts are so huge. This is why if people were to ever protest and not go to matches, it would be huge. And for one match, it's going to be a sting, but if we could do that for a couple matches, if people really wanted to show something, that would be it. But you can see how the revenue is actually increased. And so as we increase revenue, and we're not actually making any money because we're paying off debts, and we've been paying the Glazers dividends. So we're still in debt despite making a lot of money, and they have been taking dividends for years despite sometimes not actually making profit. It's almost criminal. Again, like Kieran Maguire saying, our financial waste is the interest cost, is the money that we're paying on interest. If you go ahead and look back at this other screen, like literally over $1 billion so far just in interest. We have not even paid down the debt. That's just the interest. And it's just the amount of what you like. Box says like snowball. It's like the amount of poor decision making the amount of poor decisions is snowballing. It's just one after another, after another, after another. And up until recently, there's never been an attempt to actually stop for a second and make better decisions. Literally, we have paid more interest than it costs for Spurs to build their new stadium. And that, again, I know I've said it 1,000 times already just now, that's just interest. That's not the debt itself. We have paid more on interest on the debt than Spurs paid to build their stadium. It's like when you look at it like that, like it is staggering just how poorly this club has been run under the Glazers. It's just ridiculous. And then it's just with Ineos, this is where Ineos get into it. Like that's when you start getting into, again, they've started off with some poor decisions. The Ashworth thing, attacking, keeping Ten Hag, and then sacking Ten Hag. Like you decided to keep Ten Hag after you spent the spring kind of looking around at other managers. You extended his contract. Like we said, it cost like almost 10.5 million to sack him. But you've also spent 200 million in the summer on players for Ten Hag's system. Now we've seen that some of these players have struggled a bit. And I'm not saying anyone's bad, but like where does Mazraoui fit in a 3-4-2-1 system? He's doing a job at the right center back, but that's not his position. And it's just, again, poor decisions. Hiring Ruben Amorim, 11 million, with a squad that wasn't really built for him, not a smart decision. I'm not saying Amorim is not the right appointment. It's timing, and it's the decisions that predicated that. You kept all these, and that ultimately set up your new manager for no backing in January because of the cost that it took, over 20 million for the Ashworth and the Ten Hag during the year, because that all counts against your PSR. Job cuts and ticket price hikes aren't going to fix that. It's just the way it is. Let me take this off the screen for y'all. So yeah, when you break it down like that, again, I think the most staggering number for me is that we've spent more on the interest on the debt than Spurs have spent on their new stadium. That's where I'm like, this is just embarrassing. Like, that's embarrassing. These people proclaim themselves to be excellent business people. They're not. They're some of the worst business people I've ever seen in my life. I've said it before, and you guys probably agree. I don't think ownership like ours should be allowed to continue unchecked, let alone be approved in the first place. The hostile manner in which, and really the opportunistic kind of just shady manner that Malcolm Glazer bought the club aside, put that aside, the way the club has been neglected since has literally goes against the Premier League owners' charter. There's a charter that Premier League owners have to abide by. And the terms and conditions of that charter are very, very clear. Like, I'll show you right now. So I threw this up on Twitter this morning. I'll throw it up here. This is the owner's charter for the Premier League. Now, this is the most recent iteration of it. But you can see there on the screen, like, as you read through, there are a few of those that stick out at you that the Glazers literally have violated. They violated at least 3 or 4 of these terms that are laid out. I'm just saying, like, the ones that suit to me that stick out right away is we recognize. So you look at this third number here. We recognize the value each club has in its broader community and the desire of each individual club to win and grow. We will run our club in an economically stable, sustainable, and socially responsible manner. We're not being run in an economically stable and sustainable manner. We're like, the numbers show we've paid more in interest payments. We have more debt than we've ever had. We never had debt before they arrived. And we're struggling to just make ends meet right now. Without Sir Jim's cash infusion when he came in, we would literally have like 10 or 15 million of reserves to work with. Like, this is where we're at because of the interest payments. $1 billion spent on interest payments alone. Like, so much money spent on poor transfers, player wages, sacking managers over the years. Again, the decisions. People will sit here and say, well, we spent this much. We spent it so poorly, it's not even funny anymore. Keep looking on some of the other ones that we see here. We understand the importance of a football pyramid that rewards success on the pitch, upholds promotion and relegation and qualification for other competitions by sporting merit. Again, Super League that they tried to create with other big clubs spits in the face of that rule. And it goes on to the other one too. We are collectively committed to Premier League and recognize our responsibility to support it. We will not engage in the creation of new competition formats outside of the Premier League's rules. Again, violation. That Super League has not gone away, you guys. It's just gone into a cave somewhere. And then where's the big one here? The first one. This is the one that is probably the biggest violation. We understand the vital role of our fans, and we commit to listening to their views and protecting our club's heritage. I've not ever seen that at all from the Glazers. It's really boxes. Yeah, that fact is amazing. Yeah, it's a freaking shit show, man. Lionheart says it's not keeping him or sacking, but it's backing him in the transfers. Well, they can't. Unfortunately, we don't have the money, and some of that is on Ineos. The decisions regarding Ashworth, Ten Hag, and stuff. The money spent on transfers in the summer. If there was even a shred of a chance that they had to maybe give that a consideration when it comes to spending all that money on transfers. But again, it's the other side of that coin, is you had to also give Ten Hag a fighting chance. So I see both sides of it. I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong. It's just there are two sides. You have to make a decision at some point. You can't sit on the fence for that long. And unfortunately, this is a consequence of that. Box says, in hindsight, keeping Ruud van Nistelrooy until the summer and letting Amorim take over summer would have been more sensible. And that's what I kind of brought up yesterday, Box, in the morning. So I did a morning news roundup yesterday and kind of said that same point. Would it have been better, considering the circumstances, considering PSR, all this stuff, for maybe us to just stick with Ruud for the year and kind of give Amorim a cleaner start? Like, maybe the thought was just this is the way we want to go. Let's just get it started as soon as possible. But I get that you're getting the system put in, but without the proper backing right away, without the preseason, with very little time to train and very little money to back, you're starting the system, yes, and the new identity, but you're starting it almost just a couple paces behind where you really should be starting it, if that makes sense. Fox says, didn't the PL introduce the fit and proper persons test for owners a year after Glazers took over? Yeah, anytime these rules come in after a situation like the way Chelsea has amortized the crap out of their recent transfers and some of the new rules that come in. Anytime there's a rule that comes in after something like that, you know that that's not a good sign. It's like the no shoes, no shirt, no service rule. Okay, that rule only came because somebody walked into a restaurant without shoes and without shirt. Basically, like, these rules exist because something happened at some point. It's ridiculous. Yeah, boxes Glazers wouldn't have passed. Well, the Glazers are in violation, as you can see here on this chart. They're in violation of some of these rules, and that's what I mean. I would push for some of these stadiums to be classified as historical sites, historical landmarks, and as such, the proper maintenance and upkeep and safety and all that stuff should be maintained as well, and that should come out of the owner's pocket. I think that should be a rule that gets introduced. Teresa says, in my opinion, the Glazers scored big taking the club, but with the results as business owners must be reflecting very badly on their business practices. I mean, you could technically say, Teresa, from a business standpoint, they're smart because they haven't put any money in. They don't put any of their own money in on a regular basis, and they just continue to take money out. It's basically just like they're just making money hand over fist. But again, this is football. It doesn't work like that in football. It's not fair to everyone. Danny, big up, man. How are you this morning? A little early show today. This is literally the only time I have today, so we are jumping on in. Box says, they made a lot of money, but if they run us properly and made us successful, they would have made even more for us and themselves. Glazers, yeah. As far as, yeah, they're not very smart, like you're saying, but they don't care because they're just going to keep taking those dividends. So Darko says, Sean, you can say all that you said, but how can it become so bad? 15 is not a joke. Well, this is just from a financial and an ownership standpoint. Now, 15th on the table, yeah, that's from a footballing perspective as well. The players need to be doing more. Amorim can do a little bit more to get more out of these players. We've talked about that several times. Some of this is on Ten Hag. A lot of this, though, is coming right back to the ownership and the fact that for decades since Fergie left, we haven't had a proper plan or a structure when it came to recruitment and spending. We spent so poorly that we're now it's coming to a head, is basically, and it just, some of that is kind of circumstantial or coincidental, and this is now we're starting to see more of the ramifications of that. So maybe it's just bad timing is a factor as well. But yes, the players have a lot to answer for. Amorim's got a lot to answer for. Ten Hag, everybody does. There's no one person that it's because it's human nature. We want to find something to point a finger at and say, this is your fault. You need to do this better. But this is the result of a lot of shit that's just kept building. This is like shoving all your junk in the closet because you don't want to deal with it. Eventually, it's going to get to a point where you open that closet door and it's all going to come flooding out because you never addressed it. And this is what's happening right now. Bart Darko says, no budget, no players, no preseason, but we still can become this. No, I agree. I've said many times, Darko, that there are things that I think Amorim can change. Now, I'm not calling for him to go to a back four. I'm not calling for him to do this or that. I said make a few tweaks, which he actually did against Spurs. Like we said, we played more vertical, we played more attacking. We got Dorgu on the left. We played quicker football, one-touch football. We looked better. And so as far as the performance goes, the only thing I thought was bad about Spurs is we were a little switched off defending, and then we're making poor decisions with that final ball. I think if we play like, and we'll talk about this a little more tomorrow in the preview of Everton, if we play more like that again, I think it'll click. It's what I like to see. Teresa says the now or never actually makes sense. A desperate plea from Ineos to salvage. Well, if they were going to say now or never, you can't say that and then not do more to back them. I mean, the only thing they did was bring in basically a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old. And yes, Dorgu has been playing first-team football, but he's still a 20-year-old. He's still young. He's still developing and learning. He's only played, just under 60 matches total of first-team football at Lecce. I'm not saying he's not good. I'm just saying he's still young. And this is how he was backed in January. And so I think we'll be fine. And we're definitely not finishing top half of the table though. Lionheart says, let's not forget that we have won Premier Leagues and a Champions League under the Glazers ownership. Yeah, I think that was despite that though. I mean, you could Sir Alex. I mean, we won a Champions League with Anderson playing midfield. I mean, that's Sir Alex. That has nothing to do with the Glazers. That has nothing to do with that at all. That's all Sir Alex. That's Fergie getting the most. Fergie could get blood from a stone. He built, he rebuilt, he built, he rebuilt. I mean, we beat Arsenal with like 7 defenders on the pitch once. I mean, this is Fergie. And he did that. I mean, only Fergie could actually do what he did with his hands tied behind his back. That the Glazers did. But no, it was probably the best time for the Glazers when he left, because then he and David Gill both left, and then they just, Woodward takes over, and it's just Woodward and the Glazers pretty much ran riot over everything. Darko says, if Amorim was cautious, we would not be 15th. He misjudged. He might have misjudged the Premier League. Maybe he wasn't quite prepared for that, and that's. I mean, I don't think anybody can be fully prepared to come to the Premier League, but I think Amorim is also representative of a project, of a rebuild. Just like when you get a young player. Now at United, it is a different standard, and remember, he's just turned 40. He's still a young manager. And we said the other day, if he misjudged the Premier League, just like some of the other things in terms of tactics and whatnot, he has to learn from those decisions, from those potential mistakes. He's got to learn and change things as he moves forward. That's part of life. And so if he did misjudge the league, then he's got to learn moving forward and make changes as a result. Leinart says, but I get most of that was down to Gill and Sir Alex. Yeah, no, for real. Freaking Gill with the masterminds. Yeah. You guys are all good. No, I hear you, Lionhearts. It's like I said, it's human nature to want to find some sort of a scapegoat. This is why VAR was a mastermind by the Premier League, because we call it VAR. We don't ever actually talk about the fact that it's a person, but we call it VAR. It kind of takes the human aspect out of it a little bit. It's like blaming a calculator for something. But yeah, I've said before, I don't think the ownership that we have should be allowed. Again, it seems like the Glazers have kind of violated several terms of that in the charter. They've sank us into a financial hole. I mean, if you're just joining, we put up a graph. I'll put it up again real quick, of how much we've spent just in interest since the Glazers took over. Like literally over $1 billion just on the interest on the debt, not even addressing the 700+ million in debt, and the 300 million that we still owe in unpaid transfer fees. We paid $1 billion just on the interest. We've paid more on the interest on the debt than Spurs paid to build their stadium, is basically the point that we're making. And it's just, this is where we are right now. It's just, I saw that video. I don't know if you guys saw it. I'm sure you guys did. The video clip of that Sky reporter hunting down Avram Glazer in Florida. I think it was, basically just chasing him around the street, trying to ask him if they were going to sell. And I'm like, and everyone's in an outrage of it. I'm like, you guys realize that United is a publicly traded company. He can't, even if he was going to sell, he can't just come out and say it publicly like that. That's not how it works. You'll get in so much trouble if you come out and say things like that publicly. You can't. You're just not allowed to. So I don't know what people thought he was just going to say. Like he's going to sit down and have a nice little chat while someone was chasing him around the street with a microphone and a camera and lay it all out there for everyone to see. That's just not how it works. But it was interesting what's been going on there. You guys let me know your thoughts on some of that. Again, the interest that we paid compared to like what Spurs paid for their stadium is the biggest shocker for me, the biggest eye opener for me, when you see it all laid bare like that. We talked a little bit more in depth about some of the ways that Ineos are running things and things like that in yesterday's video, so go check out that a little bit more if you want. In some transfer news, because we're going to move on to some transfer news now. Give Me Sport, it's transfer news-ish, I'll say. Give Me Sport claims that United are confident that Wolves forward Matthias Cunha will want to join them in the summer, and we are reportedly ready to activate his £62 million release clause. Reportedly, he's our number one target for attackers this summer, and Give Me Sport even goes on to claim that he's also a big fan of the move Cunha. Okay, even if I did think that this was 100% true, even if I thought this was 50% true, we're not paying anyone's release clause. You guys just saw the numbers I put on there. we're not paying any release clauses. I don't care if it's Cunha or Oshiman or what's his face, the defender. We're not paying release clauses. It's just not going to happen. Release clauses have to be paid all up front. We don't. You just saw that. We're not paying that. We have to. I mean, even if we did, and that's a big if, even if we were looking at Cunha, it's again, if we decided it would be a fee a little bit more than the release clause, probably like 65, 66, 67. So we can split that up, amortize that, and break it down into bite-sized chunks. And until we secure a few sales, either we secure those now or we lock those up in the summer. We're going to be getting Sancho money, hopefully Rashford money, maybe Anthony money, Malacia money. That will all help. But until we get those locked in, we're not going to be doing much other than maybe like supposedly locking in like Giovanni Kenda early. But that being said, I would take Cunha in a heartbeat. Danny said, spin. It's coming from Give Me Sport, so it is what it is. Danny says 75 million, no less. Go for Cunha. I mean, that's the thing. It's the there's a lot of teams out there who will just go and pay that release clause because they can. You know, someone like Arsenal or something can, because they haven't spent a whole lot. They could easily go out and do that. Liverpool could probably easily, and if Liverpool honestly probably should. I think that getting rid of Darwin Nunez and bringing in Cunha is a big step up for Liverpool, especially if you might also be losing Mo Salah. You're going to need someone like that. And 62 million is a snip for some of these clubs who haven't really bought a whole lot. We just can't afford to do that because we can't afford to pay 62 million out of pocket right away. But again, that being said, I would take him in a heartbeat. He's quality. He's experienced. He plays in the same formation, same system, and he's exactly what we need in their role. And like Laurie Whitwell claimed yesterday, like we spoke about yesterday when he sat down with Stretford Paddock, Laurie Whitwell thinks that we're going to be looking for a little bit of versatility in some players who, for instance, can play a 10 but can also play as a 9 if needed, players who can play wing back but also could come in and play a 10 if they need to, kind of like what we've seen from Ahmad, for instance. That's going to help a little bit, and I think that's what Cunha does represent. Danny thinks he will go to Liverpool. I think he'd suit Liverpool, and I think Liverpool are kind of in that prime position because Darwin Nunez is garbage. He's garbage. Lionhearts, have I done a scout report on Noah Lang? I haven't done any scout reports. I've been looking at Noah Lang since a long time. See, he was at Ajax for a while, and he and Ten Hag did not get along very well at Ajax, and so there is a little bit of a question of mentality there, of attitude there. But I know everyone's freaking out about Noah Lang, obviously with Champions League games that were going on yesterday. But Noah Lang, he's made a couple of moves in the last 4 or 5 years. Noah Lang boxes a few Americans at PSV. Yeah, we did do a scouting report on Bakayoko a while back. We did one on Malik Tillman a while back, who is an American playing there. He's really, really good. We've done one on Olivier Bouchali, who's at PSV as well. PSV are very good, a lot of really good players there. But yeah, I have not done a scouting report on Noah Lang yet. Like I said, I was watching him a few years back. He seemed like he was just not quite fitting in a couple different clubs, and obviously he and Ten Hag did not get on when they were working together. So, but I can in the future. So moving on to some other little news here. You guys let me know what you think about Cunha. Do you think that that's something we could be doing? Do you like the price tag? Again, people go on and on about these release clauses. We're not paying release clauses. We can't afford it. We couldn't afford any loan fees in January. We're not paying release clauses. So, Mike McGrath reports that Kobbie Mainoo is hopeful of recovering from his injury, not until after the international break in March, though. So, sounds like we could be without Mainoo for a little while. Collier and Ugarte could be back fit sooner than later. We will see what happens. Christian Eriksen, Yoro could be back anytime here as well. They were both just ill. We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. I think Amorim's probably got his presser today or tomorrow. So I'll do the match preview tomorrow about that one. But Mainoo was out with his teammates last night. I guess they all went bowling and then went to this Brazilian spot in Altrincham last night. So, which is not that far. It's basically Manchester suburb. But he got a haircut, Kobbie, so no more braids. But Lionheart says, could there be a possibility of a deal there with Malacia, you think? Maybe, but swap deals, I mean, if you're talking about a swap deals don't usually happen, at least the way we think about them when we talk, because it doesn't represent any money leaving or any money coming in. And so you could say we're going to sell this for this place and then we're going to get this other player, separate transactions. But But there's always deals to be done. It just depends on if any of these PSV players look like players we want. I think of all those PSV players, I think Tillman and Bashali are probably the two that I would target first in this system, because Tillman can play one of those 10 roles expertly, and Bashali is that left-sided center back that we need. I featured him a couple times. He was just in my Leacha replacement video. He's going to be a free agent in the summer. Like, it makes all sorts of sense. So Danny says, we should have just bought Cunha at the start of last summer. We were linked to him in May, June, but when Ashworth came in, it died, and we went on the cheap route and bought Xerxes. Yeah, to be fair, Xerxes, he looks better in one of these 10 roles, right? But that being said, he wouldn't have been my first choice for one of those 10 roles if I was making decisions. But it is what this is. Again, this is, you have to stick or twist on these decisions, and you're going to face the consequences. You either try to make it work, or you're going to have to take a loss on some of them. We'll probably make money when we do sell Xerxes, but he's not going to move the needle for me in terms of Champions League or challenging for leagues, in my opinion. Cunha, probably. Xerxes, not so much. But Danny says he was even on video in Brazil being asked about. Yeah, I saw that. Like, what was that, like last month or the month before or something? Speaking of PSV Champions, did you guys watch any Champions League yesterday? It seems like you did if you guys are talking about Noah Lang. I was at pub in Plymouth with Justin watching Real Madrid play. Real Madrid play. I said play City because City didn't even show up, barely. PSG basically just stat padded this round, right? They just went ham on Brest. I mean, that was insane. Pep basically wrote off this Champions League, which I thought was hilarious, but you're not going to see him getting any flack for it. We literally, Ten Hag got more flack immediately after winning the FA Cup than Pep's ever going to get for anything like this. And people were like, well, he's won the treble. Yeah, 2 years ago, and he crashed out of the Champions League last year. He crashed out again this year. Like, he barely made it out of the first round. But he's not getting any crap for it, which is ridiculous. But watch them go on a streak and overtake Liverpool, though. How hilarious would that be in the league? Leonard says, think Xerxes about to cook. I think Xerxes is showing what his best role is in this side. And to his credit, again, I've said it, I mean, we lost, right? I know we were shit kind of in that final ball, but we looked much, much better against Spurs. And Xerxes had a big part to play in that. The dude's favorite spice is nutmeg. Like, that's all he cooks with is nutmeg. The dude, how many times have we seen that from him? Just that quick little outside of the foot nutmeg, and he keeps going, that little just shuffle. And he's really good with his feet. And this is the thing, we talked about this in the summer when we were linked with him. Like, he actually has that in his locker. He had that in his locker at Bologna. With the ball, his feet, even because he's so big, he looks like a prime Benzema, a prime Zlatan. We just haven't seen that at United. Maybe he was being put in the wrong role. Maybe it was just the pressure. Maybe he just needed time. I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to jump too soon just because of a good match against Spurs and say, like, now he's it, because I don't know that yet. But if he can get, but because we've seen this in flashes from Xerxes before. The problem is not that he doesn't have it. The problem is he doesn't sustain it in terms of the form and the performances. And he needs to do that if he wants to stick around. Boxer, the Italian demise is sad. Bologna, Milan, Juventus, Atalanta. Yeah, hard to nutmeg. How many times have we seen him nutmeg players at United? It's been a little ridiculous. Yeah, Atalanta is an interesting one. I saw some interesting comments coming out of Atalanta, Gasperini, and then Lookman kind of going at it with each other, just because I guess Lookman missed a pen. I didn't watch that match, so I didn't see him miss it. But yeah, it's interesting. It sounds like Lookman's going to be gone in the summer. Would you guys take Lookman at United? I know I've mentioned him in the past. I mean, he's actually a really good player, good age. Again, he'd probably play a similar role, like you would say from Cunha or whatever. Like similar role like Liam Delap would play. Can play striker if we need him to. Manlu Tata, welcome back. Good to see you. Mark Robles will do a naked protest outside of. I don't think the words Mark Roberts and naked protest should ever be said in the same sentence ever again. I don't want that. Just some things, that's nightmare fuel. Let's just not put that out there in the world, shall we? Let's see. Danny says, no, I wouldn't. Danny's not a fan of Lookman. I know that you haven't been too big of a fan of Lookman. Not saying he's the best that you could get. I'm just saying I think he's actually better than a lot of people realize. I mean, hat trick and the Europa League final is nothing to sneeze at. So, but yeah, Pep basically writing off this Champions League round. City's defending was atrocious. You guys, especially Gvardiol. How many times have I said how bad of a defender Gvardiol is. The guy gets done. Like City cannot defend these long balls over the top at all. That's how they conceded that first goal from Mbappe. Ruben Dias just failing to handle the first ball and just falling on his ass for Mbappe just to go ahead and put in that volley. Gvardiol, like Mbappe sent Gvardiol to the stands with that simple little touch, drop of the shoulder outside of the box. Gvardiol, like when the camera zoomed in, all you see is Gvardiol just sliding by, and then he's just gone. Like this guy cost City over 100 million, by the way. That's embarrassing. He's such a poor defender, Josh Gvardiol. City will probably still say it doesn't count as a loss, though, right? Because that's how they roll. But that was it's one of the most hilarious defensive performances I've ever seen in my life. Boxes. I remember Lookman about 5 years ago struggling at a few teams, Everton, Fulham, and now he's become a top player. Yeah, and that's it. Is everybody players develop. Sometimes it just takes the right club at the right time. And we've seen that at United in the reverse. Like I thought Memphis Depay coming to United, that was the wrong time for him to do that. The wrong manager. We should have let him go to another club and then seen how he performed and then made that signing if that's something we're interested in. But Danny says he got sat down by Mbappe. He's so bad. And like Bach says, he should become a striker. Yeah, as a wing back, like Gvardiol will probably be just fine because he does tend to get involved a lot higher up the pitch. He's just defensively, he's just so bad. Like people will say like we pay 100 million for the defender. Like you pay 100 million for a defender to defend, not to score a couple goals throughout a season. That's ridiculous. Leonard says, and Mag still gets shits week in, week out. Yeah, I think, Maguire is 10 times the defender Gvardiol is. That's just the truth of it. But that's pretty much it for me, you guys. Not, like I said, not too in-depth with the finances. Obviously, we wanted to talk a little bit about the revenue. Obviously, the revenue continues to go up, but we don't know that because we're still paying off interest. Over 100 billion in interest paid, and that's not even touching the debt yet. Literally spent the same amount on interest as Spurs spent on their new stadium. Go watch yesterday's video if you haven't yet. We went a little bit more in depth with some of that. Obviously, we talked a little bit today because the actual quarterly results came out yesterday. But let me know your thoughts on Cunha. Are you buying these rumors? I don't think we're going in for anybody as far as release clauses go because we can't afford it. But let me know your thoughts on just Champions League. The Academy plays tomorrow afternoon. I think they play Chelsea too if anyone wants to watch that. That could be fun. But I will see you tomorrow for a preview of Everton. Today, the rest of the day for me is going to be busy. I got my class, I've got a client, and then I got to shoot over because I'm supposed to be doing some drop-in soccer tonight. So we'll see. It's going to be cutting it close, but I'm going to try to make that work. And then tomorrow I've got some other stuff too. But we'll be back tomorrow for the preview on that one. So I want you guys' thoughts. Until then, please, please, please hit that like button for me. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you guys on. Oh, and if you guys want to get a look at the Europa League, watch the rest of the Europa League today, because we could get a better idea of who we could play. It sounds like Akmar are probably a good chance of one of our opponents, and potentially Sociedad Midtjylland. It's 2-1 up Sociedad right now in aggregate, but we will see. Lionheart says the bottom line is we must win the Europa League this year, otherwise we'll get fudged. Yeah, if we miss out on Champions League again, that's going to kill us because not only will we miss out on the just Adidas funding, but the match day revenue for some of that is going to take a hit as well. Boxes, the art of defending is going, as is the art of the number 9, the art of goalkeeping. Yeah, that's because it's more. That's the potential downside of the data driven mentality is you're taking a little bit of the freedom, and then I think Rafael Varane was talking about this the other day. We take a little bit of that freedom, a little bit of that expression out of football. This is why so many players struggle under Pep, even the creative ones, because it's so regimented, it's so structured that there's no room for expression. This is why Ten Hag struggled. It's very, very, very structured. You have to have a little bit of that expression. You have to find the balance, though, as a manager. So, but thanks for stopping by, everybody. I will see you guys tomorrow. Again, hit that like button, subscribe for me if you are new. Check the membership perks to learn how you can get involved in the channel as well and what we put out here content-wise. So until then, take it easy, enjoy your day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Later.